Okay, finally, we are live. We are on air. We've got Laz Valdes, Miguel's Garden and Bonsai with us, and we want to welcome back the lovely Amy. Hi, guys. Hi, Laz. Hi, Amy, and hi, everyone in the chat right now.
Somebody's got their. Maybe it's me. Oh, it is. It's just me. Anyway, hi.
Okay, so
Managing to get through it.
yeah, we've had some technical difficulties as usual. This lovely platform of ours. Listen, I want to ask the people in the chat real quick because I'm having some microphone problems. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me and not just the people on the panel. So if somebody in the comment section would please let me know that you can hear my voice, and then we'll move forward from there. So hey, Laz, welcome back, my friend. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
So appears that nobody is responding yet. I really want to know. I want to make sure that everybody in the chat, everybody on that my voice is being recorded on the show. Good sound. You hear me? Okay, cool. Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you. Because the weird thing is, on the Hangout page right now, my microphone is showing that I'm muted. And I've been having trouble with this microphone, and I just wanted to make absolutely sure that my voice was coming through. So let's start with Amy. Oh, Infrigo the fridge. Let me give you a wrench while I'm thinking about it. Amy,
Yeah.
everybody is wondering how you've been and what's going on. So let's catch up with you first and get that out of the way, because I know that everybody is wondering. Tell the story, what happened, and how have you been?
Well, I discovered that I have or had a deteriorated gallbladder, in that it was infected and inflamed, and not a very happy camper. And they basically, when I looked into it, the best solution is to have it removed. So last Friday, I had my gallbladder removed. And yeah, it's painful-ish. And yeah, I'm kind of tired and all of that. But there's nowhere near the amount of pain now as what I was having when I went into the hospital.
All right, very good. And you went for a checkup today, and the doctor said you're healing very nicely?
Stellarly, yes. I don't know that he used that term, but he indicated that it was faster than expected.
Okay, well, very good.
So
Laz, how have you been,
we're all
brother?
good.
How have you been,
Doing
brother
great.
Laz?
And doing great. Let me know if the air conditioning noise is bothering you. I will mute when I'm not talking. Let me know.
Yeah,
I don't hear it.
I don't hear it.
Great,
Yeah,
great, great.
you sound fine.
Yeah. I'm doing all right. I'm happy that Amy is doing better. Now she weighs a little less, but she's doing better. Great.
She weighs a little bit
they,
less.
they
Yeah.
they took my pound of flesh. Yes, they did.
We're humans are made with extra parts, and so I guess you really didn't need it that bad, did you?
Yeah. Nowadays, we don't need to bring that much.
Not in the condition that it had gotten to over the years.
So, are you supposed to be on medication or anything now that you're missing a gallbladder?
No, I'm supposed to eat relatively low fat.
So the gallbladder, if I understand, is a gland that secretes bile into your digestive system, and so
Well, no, I think, doesn't the liver do that function and the gallbladder catch that fluid and then spew it out as needed? That was
um,
my understanding of how it worked.
my mom had hers removed, and the last time I talked to her about it, I understood that the gallbladder is the device or the organ that secretes the bile. It operates your bile duct. And so when you eat something, it gets a signal and it secretes bile, which helps the digestive system. So I don't know. They didn't tell you anything about that?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It stores the bile that the liver has
Oh,
made.
okay, right.
And
Okay.
then it receives a signal and goes, okay, kapoosh.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, that's basically what its function was, but mine was beyond acceptable parameters. Yep.
All right, cool. So, Laz, what have you been up to lately, brother?
Well, not much because it's been raining here like crazy, and when the wood is wet, I cannot make any planters, cannot cut it, cannot paint it. So I've been a little bit lazy, but now I gotta go back to work. So
Mm.
Now you got to go back to work. You mean like regular work?
no, making planters,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which is
Doing the
regular work
plan.
for me.
Huh.
Awesome.
So, Laz, you actually contacted me with the idea of coming on to discuss this topic tonight. Uh, what motivated you to do that? I'm curious.
Because you were interested to talk about it.
Okay, yeah, I am very interested. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've done a lot of research on, and so I mean, is that really just the reason why? Because you saw me showing an interest?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you want to proceed? Did you have any idea how you want to get started with this? Because I mean, I could literally give like a 2 or 3 hour presentation on the subject by myself.
Knock
I
yourself
bet you
out.
could.
Go ahead. I don't have a problem whatsoever listening to you.
Okay, well, I will
Yeah,
do that.
you rock, Aaron, and then we'll interject
Yeah.
as things move along. I think that will be an awesome way to go about this.
Okay, well, I'll do a screen share in a minute and I'll show you guys some of the files. I'll try not to drag it out because literally, I was recently interviewed by Dr. Charles Koss, and I gave him a 2.5 hour presentation on this subject of astrotheology and religion. Now, I'm not going to bore you guys to tears with my 2.5 hour presentation, but I will go through some of the files that I have. One of the things I want to cover, I think this is maybe a good place to start, and it'll take me just a second because I don't have a tab opened up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my page. I've been having a discussion in the comment section with our old friend Chuck P, who is apparently a religious fundamentalist. And
Yes.
when I uploaded, as you might know, I recently attended the Ark Encounter protest up in Kentucky, where I interviewed Aaron Raw and I interviewed Seth Andrews. Those two videos are up on my channel right now. And so I got a comment from Chuck P, and him and I have done this before on the subject of religion. Him and I have debated and / argued in the comment section. So what I think I want to do is I probably want to open this up and I want to address this discussion that I'm having with Chuck P right off the bat here. So I uploaded this video with Seth Andrews, and let me see. I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and do a screen share now, so you guys can read and see what I'm looking at. Start screen share. Let me know when you've got my screen. Uh-oh. Don't you dare.
Oh no. This doesn't sound good.
Shit. I might have to leave and come back because screen share is not working.
I didn't do it.
Oh,
It's like my microphone is muted, but my microphone works, and the screen share function is not working.
wow.
Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, step out and step back in and see if that works.
Yeah, because if I can't get screen share to work, then my presentation is just a big waste of time because I've got tons of files that I want to share with you guys.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll just run through this real quick, and then I'll step out and come back in. Chuck, so
All right.
under my Seth Andrews interview, where I basically just asked Seth, what are we doing out here? Because it was a protest for the Ark Encounter. This is a Ken Ham, the religious fundamentalist, apologist, and debater, who set up this $100 million project up in Kentucky. They spent $100 million and they built a full-scale model of the Noah's Ark. And then they were promised $18 million from the state of Kentucky, from the county that they're in, to help fund the project. and then Ken Ham, he sold the property after it was up and built. He sold the property to himself because a $750,000 tax bill came along, and this is a yearly tax bill. And he didn't want to pay that tax bill, so he sold the project to his other organization called Answers in Genesis, which I think is a non-profit, or maybe it's a religious organization. And so because he wanted to get out of paying the taxes, and then the state of Kentucky, because they promised $18 million to the project, they came back to him and they said, no, if you're going to do that, if you're going to be a religious organization, then we're not going to give you the $18 million. So then he sold the project back to himself again, because his only choice was either $18 million in subsidies or pay the $750,000 tax bill. So he sold it, and then he sold it back and forth. And then there's the issue with the hiring practices, where they don't hire gays, they don't hire Jews, they don't hire. They only hire people who acknowledge that they are young earth creationists. And if you're single, if you're not married, if you're single, they make you sign a pledge that you'll be celibate while you work there. And then on top of that, they take 2% of the employee's paycheck that goes back into pay the $69 million junk bond that began funding the project. So hiring practices that would be illegal for anybody else. So
Yeah.
I interview Seth Andrews, and Chuck P shows up and he leaves a comment. He says, "These are the lies of science, and there are the lies." Oh, excuse me. He said, "There are the lies of science and there are the lies of religion." And then he said, "Jesus is the truth." So I said, "Jesus is truth, huh? Prove it." And then Chuck comes back and he says, "Prove he's not." Okay, so Chuck, you don't understand burden of proof, my friend. If you're going to make a positive claim like Jesus is truth, the burden of proof falls on you. Okay, that's just how. That's just how it works. So I replied to him, "You made the claim. The burden of proof is on you." And then Chuck said, "I could quote the word of God all day long, and anyone with eyes to see would see the undeniable proof. Those without the God-given spirit gift of knowledge are blind and deaf to the truth. They cannot understand. It's a gift, and you would need to accept the gift to, quote, get it. Although all who know this have the gift, they all have accepted Jesus as their one true Lord." Now, Chuck goes on to say a few other things here. And actually, I should probably read that. He said, "Science is also a religion." And I want to stop right there, because that is absolute bullshit. And anybody who thinks that science is a religion needs to pull their head out of their ass. Science is absolutely the antithesis of religion. Religion has done everything in its power throughout its entire history to stop the progress of science. Science is not a religion. Science is a method. It is simply a method for discovering the truth of the reality of the world that we live in. And yes, it's the material world.
Yep.
It's simply, yeah, go ahead. You just interrupt me, because I'll ramble on, bro.
Don't you think that religion? Don't you think that religion could be called a method as well?
You know, you're right, and I did think about that. However,
however, with religion, you have nothing concrete to show. With science, you always have concrete something to show.
Well, no, we got theories.
Well, religion. See,
if you can call science a method, then we could call science. I mean, if you could call science a method, we could call science a religion. Why not?
Well, if you're going to call religion a method, I'll ask you to define or explain how or what method What is the method of religion? What does religion have in the way of quote method? Religion is a dogma. Okay.
The religions uses dogma.
But what kind of method? What method is religion? What's
Yeah.
Well,
what's the method?
we could say it's a psychological method of indoctrination.
Okay.
We could say it's a psychological method of reprogram.
I agree so far.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we can call it a method.
But science is not a religion.
Science is
not a
science,
dog.
if we cannot call sciences, because the definition of religion, we cannot call science a religion, then I will go as far as says that scientists today practice science as religion. In other words,
I agree.
It looks like that.
That's scientism, where you.
Yes, it looks
you
like
look,
well.
You
We can
look
call
like
it
you're
names.
sciencey, but you're dogmatic.
Yes,
Yes.
it's like dogma. In other words, they protect the theories, even
but
though
true-
facts contradict the theory.
True science is not religion. It's the antithesis.
We don't have through science. We don't have through religion. What we have is interpretations of reality in a religious way or a scientific way. And we both of them have different methods of investigations.
No.
Okay.
No, religion doesn't have a method of investigation. I would argue that strongly. There's no method of investigation that religion has. Religion doesn't investigate anything. Religion has not offered anything new to the world that we know as a way of understanding our reality. Religion hasn't changed in 2,000-3,000 years. Now, some people will say that certain aspects, like certain sects, S-E-C-T-S, not S-E-X, certain sects of religion, like certain denominations of religion, some of them, like Catholic, the Catholic religion has accepted evolution. They don't argue evolution. Okay, so they accept evolution. So that's the only thing that's changed, is basically as a result of science. And it came on the heels of science. They weren't the forerunners and said, hey, this is the new thing that we discovered thanks to our religion. Now we understand our world better. This is not how religion works. Religion is in fact a dogma where you do what we say or you're going to go to hell. So they threaten you with eternal damnation. Well,
that's the Christian religion. I thought you were talking about religion as in general. I didn't know you were talking about religion as a specific.
Well, I'm okay. Well, I'm going to bounce back and forth, but for the most part, I am talking religion in general.
Well, if you talk about religion in general, the Brahman of India brought a lot of scientists forward.
Like what?
What do you mean, like what?
Name one. Name. Okay, the Brahmin of India. What did they bring forward in the ways of understanding how the world works? Did they explain what lightning was? Did they explain that the world doesn't stand on 4 pillars and it's not flat with a crystal dome with a window to let rain in? I mean,
actually, they consider that the universe contract and expand like the Brahman, the birth of Brahman. That's one of the things. Also, they talk about long time ago. I mean, beyond what the Europeans knew before the computer codes of 1 and 0s. They be talking about that for thousands of years. So they are bringing things. You know, they bring things back. They bring things forward.
Okay, in terms of what you said about Brahma, as he wakens, and basically, I understand slightly. I have a little bit of knowledge of Brahma. Well, Brahma sleeps, and then Brahma wakes, and then Brahma sleeps, and then Brahma wakes. And so I have not heard that they came and brought forth the idea that the universe expands and or contracts. Did you say also contracts?
With the breath of Brahma, the inhale and exhale.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, except for one thing. It's not empirical, and it's not objective, and it's not a way that we can test it and verify it.
Well, we could. I
Right.
think we do.
I mean,
I think we are doing it right now. We're just calling it other names.
well, as far as like the expansion of the universe, this is something that we can test and see and verify. It was Edwin Hubble who discovered the expansion of the universe by detecting the redshift of light.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm trying to tell you is that you asked me what examples, and I gave you a couple of examples. I'm not saying that you're wrong or right. I'm saying that it could be looked at different ways.
Okay, well, then I'll jump. Let's just jump back to the Christian religion for
Okay.
a moment. And just a couple of examples. You know, the Bible is supposed to be the Word of God. If you ask any Christian or Catholic, the Bible is the Word of
Mm-hmm.
God.
Mm-hmm.
And Christ, His only begotten Son, came to earth to, to teach us the various things that He supposedly was here to teach us.
Mm-hmm.
One example that He completely failed was germ theory, because for a while, they started to get the idea that maybe you should wash your hands after you take a shit before you have something to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus comes along, and I forget which passage. Okay, now forgive me. I'm not a scholar. I'm not always going to be able to quote a chapter and verse. Sometimes I can, but not always. So there's a quote. It might be in Matthew. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Jesus said that you don't have to wash your hands. It's actually not part of God's law. And Jesus followed up by saying that it's not what goes into the mouth that poisons the body, it's what comes out of the mouth. So instead
Yeah.
of saying, hey, yes, it's a good idea, wash your fucking hands, Jesus said, no, don't worry about it. It's not part of the law.
Yeah. The I don't have a problem with the Bible. My problem is with the interpretation some people give the Bible.
Oh, I got a big problem with the Bible. And then
Yeah.
that leads to all the crazy interpretations.
Yeah, well, I have a problem because it, if people look at the Bible as a source of, I'm sorry, not as a source, but if they try to interpret the Bible literally, then they come up with some kind of questions like you have right now about the hands and washing of the hands. But if they try to interpret it figuratively speaking, or metaphorical or allegorical, then that's the key to interpret what the Bible was talking about. In this particular case, there was no Jesus, there was no body, there was no water, there was not. They were not talking about washing the hands. They were talking about that what you speak, it will hurt you. In other words, to wash your mouth and make sure that you speak the right words, because not only you may hurt someone else with your speech, but you also hurt yourself.
Okay,
Because
I
that's the
understand.
kind of interpretation. So it had nothing to do with germs. It had nothing to do with
Okay,
science at
okay.
that point.
I get that. That's a nice parable, and it makes sense the way when you interpret it that way.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was a terribly missed opportunity. Think of the suffering and death and disease that could have been prevented.
Yeah, really. I mean, he must have known,
Well,
right?
well, yeah, because it's not the word of God literally. It's a word or a spiritual or people back then, and that's what they used to talk about.
I want to address a comment. Photo Via Pop is in the chat. Hi, sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
She said the Bible is the poetry of mystics. I would disagree. Now, I've heard people say that the Bible is a nice piece, it's a great piece of literature, that the Bible is wonderful poetry, and I strongly disagree, and here's why. There's a website that documents 439 outright contradictions in the Bible, that straight up where the Bible literally contradicts itself. Okay. And then if you actually read the Bible, and I've got a Bible tab right here, I could read you some passages. And if you want, I'm ready to go. It is full of monumental, mind-numbing fucking redundancy. And the way it is written, it's like you read one big paragraph and you'll read the same sentence rearranged and just said a different way, like 4 or 5 times in the same paragraph. They say the same thing 3 or 4 different ways. They just rearrange, and you know what I mean? It's so the redundancy is off the freaking charts. And then as you go through the various books of the Bible, it repeats itself again and again and again. So let me ask you this question. If I was to write a book that had 400 plus contradictions and mind-numbing redundancy, could anybody say that was a good piece of literature or poetry?
No.
Well, if you didn't understand the point the first time, that they have to say in another way. It's allegorical, it's figuratively a speech. In other words, they're telling you the same thing different ways. It's like if I tell you a story to teach you a concept, but then again I use another story to teach you the same concept. That is, I say there were 2 people in the bicycle, and one went to sleep, and the other one won the race. Or I give you and then again I make another story of the rabbit and the turtle. That the turtle won because the rabbit fell asleep at the end, and the turtle won. So I'm talking about the same concept, the same theme, using different stories.
Well,
put it in a different ways. So yes, it's going to be redundant because again, the Bible was plagiarized from the Kemetic people, and it was rereading and changed to fit the custom and the culture of the people that wrote the Bible, and and the audiences of the people that wrote the Bible. So they took that, changed it that to fit the culture. It's like I bring a story from Cuba and try to tell you a story. I have to change the name. I change the name of the persons in the story. I change the name of the place. But at the end, the message that I'm trying to send is regardless of it's not historical because those people never existed. I just made it up.
There's a story about Ezekiel where God tells Ezekiel he wants Ezekiel to take a block of clay and then draw the city of Jerusalem and reenact the siege of Jerusalem. And then and now I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember the entire passage directly, but I remember much of it. He says, take a block of clay and put it in front of you and draw the city of Ezekiel to memorialize the siege of Jerusalem. And he says, build ramps up to it, build siege weapons against it, and then it will be under siege, and you shall besiege it. It's like over and over and over. Besiege it and besiege it, and it'll be under besiege.
Yes.
You will besiege it, and it will be under besiege. It will be besieged, and you're going to besiege the. Okay.
They're talking about the cornerstone.
No, actually, this particular story. Let me tell you this story because it's fucking batshit crazy.
If you look at it literally, yes, it's crazy.
Okay, well then maybe you can interpret it. I'll tell you the story, and then maybe you could try to interpret it.
Okay.
So God tells Ezekiel to do this. He'd take a block of clay and reenact the siege of Jerusalem. Build ramps up to it, lay siege to it, build battering rams, and then build and take an iron pan and place it between you and the city, and it will be under siege. And then God says, I want you to lay on your right side for the number of days, as is the number of years of the Israelites' sin, which turns out to be 390 years. So he wants Ezekiel to lay on his right side for 390 days. And furthermore, God is going to tie him down. God is going to pull out restraints and literally tie him down. So he can't roll over, no switching, no changing positions, no cheating. And then After the 390 days, if he hasn't already died from the various,
Really?
and then he's supposed to lay on his left side for the number of days as the number of years of the Ammonites or forgive me, but I forget the Philistines. I think it's the Philistines for their sins. So, and that's 40. So he's supposed to lay on his right side for 390 days, and then lay on his left side for 40 days, and then God tells him to bake bread in the presence of the Israelites, and he wants Ezekiel to use his own shit as the fuel for the fire, because he wants the Israelites to eat defiled food.
Oh, God.
And I mean, I'll pull it up and I'll read it to you directly if you don't believe me.
It's all right. I remember that very well. Every time in the Bible it tell you to recreate something is okay. It's talking to the individual and raising their conscience level. In other words, Jerusalem is the head, the mind, and he's trying to tell Ezekiel that don't forget how to build your mind. It's going to be siege. People are going to attack it with wrong things, trying to take over you, reprogram you. So stay right, keep some time in the right way. I'm going to protect you. So stay there for some time. And then I turn to the other side, that is, start working on the left side, the feminine side. And then that time I'm not going to protect you. And when that happens, go tell the Israelites that they're eating shit. They don't know what's going on. They don't know the secret.
I'm not sure I understood that.
Actually, I did.
Well, I'm glad. Maybe it's just because I'm wearing a bit already.
The Bible is showing the individual that the universe is the mirror of the individual, and the individual is the mirror of the universe. That as the universe is in order, the Bible is always telling people, put your own house in order. So look at the sky for the signs, how everything works like a clock. That's the way that you should work. So in that passage, it was a message for Ezekiel to put his own house in order, and that he was going, to stay to the right, investigate, use logic and reason, and then turn to the other side, use the feminine side, intuition, and love, and then go and tell the Israelites that they're eating shit. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
That's a good interpretation, man. I applaud you for that. It actually makes sense when you put it that way.
That's the key. That's the key to read the Bible.
Okay, let me give you another one.
Go ahead.
In Genesis, I think it's chapter 38. Genesis 38. Judah, his son Ur. God kills Ur because he was unrighteous. So that's the only explanation no other explanation. God just decides to kill Ur. And Ur has a wife, and she has not bore any children. So back then, it was your job, if you were the brother and your brother got killed for any reason, it was your job to impregnate your brother's wife so that his bloodline could carry on. Okay? That was sort of a tradition, right? So Judah's second son, Onan, it was his job to fuck his dead brother's widow. Okay? But Onan didn't want to, because he knew that the children would not be considered his. So what he did was he slept with her, he screwed her, and then he pulled out and he ejaculates on the floor. This is Genesis chapter 38. Spills his seed on the floor, it says. And then, because God wasn't happy with that, God kills Onan. So the woman still hasn't bore any children. What does she do? She puts a veil on her face, and she goes and she whores herself out around town because she needs to get pregnant. ultimately tricking her stepfather, Judah. So now we got Judah is out screwing whores. He didn't know it was his stepdaughter. She tricks Judah and then gets pregnant by him. And so all the townspeople are going to stone her. And then Judah discovers that it was his stepdaughter, and he stops the town people, says, no, we're going to give her a pass. So do your best to interpret that one.
The woman in the veil is truth. The man trying to
Truth.
control
The woman in the veil is truth.
Is truth. The first son and the second son are attempts to turn truth in people's favor. That is not conceive fruits right. That is using tricks to prove that you got the truth. When that happened, truth go to the street, go to the market, and look for other people to find her, because what we seek is seeking us. So when that happened, then the individual that lost it then realized that he found it again, and then understand that they had it all the time. They just thought that they created that truth. That is, that they knew that truth that was man knowledge, but is not man knowledge, is truth itself. So it's like, let me see if I can put it another way. When people try to or think that the knowledge that they're so intellectual, they're so knowledgeable, they think that they are better than other people, and they think that the facts they know is the truth, and they are arrogant. So they do this process, trying one time, trying another time, and they become arrogant. So truth leave them until sometime after that they find truth again by coincidence, and they know, then they recognize that they let truth go, and truth come back with more pregnant. That is more truth, more knowledge.
Okay, that's an interesting interpretation, but why do you suppose they have to turn everybody into whores? And why why is truth turned into a whore, tricking her stepfather? Why is Onan having sex with her and pulling out and coming on the floor?
Well, because they have to make a story.
That's a wonderful piece of poetry there. That's a story.
They have to make a story to.
You don't think they could have came up with a better way to tell that allegory?
I'm thinking
they could, and they probably did. Like you say, they're very redundant. So they probably used something like that in the Bible to tell the same concept, but they use another analogy.
That's a pretty fucked up story. It's a pretty fucked up way to tell it.
It really
remember, like I said, it's plagiarized back from Egypt, and it was fed to people that they were very fucked up. So we have to look at those people that wrote those letters or those documents. Who are the people that we're talking to? Who are the people that they intended to give?
Fair enough. Fair enough. They were uneducated dirt farmers.
Beast.
They were uneducated dirt farmers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that. All right. Here's another one. You know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot and his family was saved, and Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt. Most people know that story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what happened right before that story?
The three men that met Abraham?
No, the two angels who came and visited Lot. You know that story?
Yeah, after they left one of the angels behind talking to Abraham. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that may have come even after the story I'm going to tell you, because God gets wind that Sodom and Gomorrah are, they're sinful and they're debaucherous, as if the omniscient God didn't already know this. So God is surprised, and so he sends two angels to go scout the place out. And they go and they visit Lot, and Lot says, come in and stay at my place for the night, because this place isn't very safe. And they're like, no. And he's like, yes, I insist. And so they finally do. Now, the Bible describes these two male angels as being very beautiful. And because it's Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, they're so debaucherous, the townspeople, they gather around Lot's house. This angry mob is shouting at Lot's house, and they want the two angels to come out so they can have sex with them. Okay. And Lot, being a good house host, he says no. He goes out and he calms the crowd down. And what Lot does instead is he offers up his two virgin daughters. He says, "Here, take my two daughters instead."
Yeah.
So he offers his two virgin daughters to an angry crowd, in a Sodom and Gomorrah angry crowd, instead of turning over the two angels.
Well, don't you find curious there, right there, that there were two cities, two angels, two women?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe
that right there reminds me of Castor and Pollux, the twins, and we're going to get into the astrotheological aspect. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I hope this is the last one, and you get my point that it depends on the interpretation.
I got another one.
Oh shit!
Go ahead.
Well, this is a lot simpler than the one before. Every time we hear twins mentioned, we have to interpret it as they're talking of the two hemispheres of the brain, the male and the female.
Well, this is okay. Well, I see where you're going, but this is not how the story is. It's two women. There's two. Well, okay, there were two male angels and two female virgin daughters. So okay, I see where you're going. Go ahead.
Every hemisphere of the body, though, the brain, is separated into two. That is man knowledge and natural knowledge or universal knowledge. So whereas two, there's four, because it's always one, it has to be two. So if you got two hemispheres, then you got four dots. Two on one side, two on the other. Two positive, two negative. I mean, two male, two female. One of those males, you got two males, one of those masculine, I'm sorry, let's use masculine. One of those masculine had to be positive, the other one had to be negative. The same with the other side, female side, which one had to be positive, one had to be negative. The negative one always is the man knowledge that acquire through his senses. That's always what it represents. Sodom and Gomorrah, there are two cities, there are two hemispheres of the brain, and that means almost the same thing as in Genesis they call Tahu and Bahu, that is waste and desolated. Okay. After what you mentioned, the pillar of salt. Now we know that the body needs minerals.
Yeah.
And that's a reference to
they're all considered salts, by the way. The different minerals.
Yeah, they're salts, minerals.
They're all different versions of they're all a type of a salt mineral.
So that's a reference to that. Also, it is said that those two cities were in the Dead Sea, located in the Dead Sea. They afterwards became salt. So not only is he telling you a moral story or a conscious story or a spiritual story, he's also pointing out where can you find the right salts.
Where can you find the right salts?
Yeah, look for Sodom and Gomorrah. The brain produced the salts.
No, the brain does not produce salts. No.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any salt production in the brain.
No, there are all kind of there are, and it's interesting that there are, I think, 12 that they're called cell salts, and that's potassium, magnesium, calcium, and sodium, and I can't name them all, but they're all considered in the salt family of minerals, and there are 12 of them, which again reminds me of the as above, so below. Like you said, we're mirrors of the cosmos. So, I mean, that much makes a little bit of sense, but I don't see where you're going with the idea of where to find the right salts. I don't see where you're going with that.
Have you heard many people talking about that your pineal gland calcified because of fluoride?
Yes. Of course.
Do that?
Yes.
If you look at the pineal gland calcified, doesn't that look like it's turning to salt?
Well, yeah, but what's the
Okay,
point?
that's it. It turned into salt because you look back.
Interesting.
So, Aaron, we can do this all day long, but if anyone really wants to um, get to another perspective, just consider the possibility that every book in the past is written in three kind of languages. It's written in the language of the people. It's written in the materialistic way, and it's really written in the metaphysical way or spiritual way. Try to find a key. Try to figure out, and don't look at the holy books as you investigate the historical book. Read it as a story and try to find the moral teaching out of it. Not historical, not literal.
Oh,
And
you're a fan of Bill Donahue, aren't you?
not I won't consider myself a fan,
you know
or
you know who he
I don't
is.
have any heroes. I
No,
listen to everybody.
no, I mean, you're familiar with Bill Donahue?
Yes, familiar, yes.
Okay, because you sound a lot like him right now, because this is the way he interprets the Bible.
Actually, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know because I think
you kind of sound a lot like the way he interprets Bible passages.
he makes sense because everybody that is that look at the Bible with trying to understand the allegorical meaning behind it pretty much have to come up with the same conclusion. So if we sound alike, it's not because we are copying each other, but
I'm just noticing a similarity. I'm not trying to tell you. I'm not saying anything.
No, I'm not accusing you or saying that. What I'm saying is, it's like, two people describing a horse or three people describing a horse. They're pretty much gonna be, they're gonna pretty much gonna have the same description. Pretty much, depending on the perspective. But I wish I could sound like Bill Donahue. I mean, that guy is brilliant.
He's pretty good. I do like the way he lays it out, and I do listen to Bill on occasion.
Santos Bonacci also is brilliant.
Yeah, except he's wrong on a few things, and then recently, a couple years ago, he turned into a flat earther, and so I stopped listening to him.
We all are wrong in some place.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. We're all wrong on a few things. Fair enough. Yeah. But
I wish I could only be wrong. I wish I could only be wrong in a few things. I'd be happy. I'm wrong about many things.
My mom used to say in a joking way, she would say, "I was wrong once."
Yeah.
Okay, so I got another one for you.
My dad would say, "I was wrong once, but I was mistaken."
I thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken. Okay, I got another one for you, Laz. This is a crazy story. The story of Moses and the Exodus. So God trains Moses to do magic tricks. God goes through this whole process to train Moses how to do simple magic tricks like turning a staff into a serpent. He makes his hand go leper and then makes it heal again, river of blood, these kind of things. And God tells Moses, I'm going to send you to Egypt to free the Israelite slaves. I want you to go to Egypt and have a contest with the Pharaoh's priests. And I'm going to train you to do magic, and you're going to have a magic off with the priest, and I want you to tell the Pharaoh, let my people go. Okay? So that's the premise of the story. So after God trains Moses to do magic, Moses is on his way to Egypt. And while he's on his way, God hardens Pharaoh's heart. And so that Pharaoh won't release the Israelite slaves. So essentially, God sabotaged his own plan right off the bat. And then while Moses is traveling to Egypt, while he's staying at a lodging place, God shows up and inexplicably is going to kill Moses. No explanation. God just shows up and he's going to kill Moses. And you know what stops him? Moses' wife Zipporah takes a flint knife, cuts off her son's foreskin, and then touches Moses on the feet with it. And she says to Moses, you are truly a bridegroom of blood to me.
Yes.
Not to mention the fact that the Pharaoh's priests could do the same magic tricks.
Yes.
So God sabotages his own plan twice. And then there's this crazy, aspect where he's going to show up and kill Moses without explanation, and his wife cuts off her kid's foreskin, touches him on the feet with it. Just crazy shit. Now, your turn. You interpret that story.
That could have two different interpretations. It could have the astrotheological interpretation, and it could have the metaphysical interpretation. In the astrotheological interpretation, Moses is the sun, and the sun have all these powers, and they used to call him also the fool. They used to call him the magician. They used to call him everything. But the woman protects the sons, that is Earth. So in order for the woman, that is the Earth, to protect their son, their children die. So the son cannot practice magic on the children for eternity. So they have to become a bloody bridegroom. So, in other words, the sun is married to the earth. They have children. And the woman, which is the earth, sacrificed the children, and they die, or they do some kind of ritual with blood in order for the son not to do magic trick on them or not pay the punishment of the son. In the past, the Aztecs used to do that. They used to pinch their own foreskin and bleed. So they have the same story about that. They will, instead of sacrificing, they will give their own blood to the representation of the sun.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Laz. Who do you think wrote the Bible?
I think that the Bible, as we call it today, is nothing but a combination of manuscripts that wrote by many people at different times. There's
66 books, 40 known authors, and it was written over a period of almost 1,500 years in the entire time span it was written.
Yeah, and about 600 years ago, it was almost corrupted completely. So a lot of things were taken out, and also a lot of books were taken out. The one we call today apocryphal.
Yeah.
So that's it's a shame, but that's what we got.
So you think it was you said, did you say magistrate? Was that the word you used? Like basically a priesthood or a priest class?
Manuscripts, different notebooks from people that they put together, writings. That's what I said, that the Bible is a compilation of manuscripts.
And you think that because it was written during a time where most people were uneducated dirt farmers, that the allegories were obviously directed towards the people of the time being uneducated and
not only because they were yes, then they weren't educated.
So let me ask you this then.
But hold on. Not only because of that, but also because that's the way they used to speak back then.
Okay.
They were not. If you go to your rabbi, if you go to your spiritual teacher, and you said, "Rabbi, why does people die?" The guy will tell you an allegorical story so you can make your own conclusions out of it. They will not tell you the answer like they do today. That's religion.
All right. So according to what the premise that you've laid out so far, considering that we're talking about Bronze Age uneducated, ignorant dirt farmers, goat herders, and somebody writes down this highly sophisticated text in the form of allegory and metaphor and parable for the purpose of trying to teach some sort of higher lesson relating to, like you said earlier, the way the cosmos is a mirror of the human and the human is a mirror of the cosmos, as above, so below, that old saying. Do you really think that the way the Bible was written, considering the uneducated people it was intended for, do you really think those uneducated people were going to understand the allegory?
Oh yes, most definitely.
Really?
First,
Wait.
First,
because the explanation you gave earlier makes a lot of sense. It's a very the way you interpreted the stories I laid out earlier. You did it in a very sophisticated way, and very much like Bill Donahue does, in a modern and sophisticated, educated way. You did a great job, and I applaud you. However, do you really think that these uneducated dirt farmers are going to think to themselves, oh, the right side of the brain, I should concentrate on the feminine, because they're reading Sodom and Gomorrah, and they're going to put two and two together, and they're going to go, oh, these are twin cities and twin angels and twin daughters. Oh, I get it. It's the feminine, the masculine. Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to look back and calcify my pineal gland. You really think these people are going to understand that shit?
Some will. And those who learn move on and teach others, and others will get those stories and make up a religion to worship in the sun and the moon, because that's what they understood. So let's say you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Let's say I'm a guy that go to Egypt and learn this, and then I start moving around the world, going to towns that are about 300-500 people, and sitting on the fire and telling these stories and try to talk to people and what the meanings of the stories are. And then out of 600 people, you got 30 people left interested, telling you, okay, teacher, what do you mean when you said that? And what do you mean when you said that? So, but maybe by the end of the night, you got one or two guys that really interested, wanted to learn more and really get what you're trying to say. So that's it. Then you move to the next town.
Okay, so you got one or two guys who maybe understand, and everybody else gets it wrong and starts in a religion, and so now we live.
No. Not the people that get it wrong start a religion. The people that get it right start a secret society.
There you go. That's it. The people that get it right are they're in the extreme minority, and like you said, you nailed it right there. That they started a secret society, and the Rosicrucians, the Masons.
That's why you got to keep it secret. That's why you got to keep it secret. Like the Matrix says, the movie The Matrix, that said, these people, we're trying to save these people, but until we don't save them, until we don't figure this shit out, any of them could be their enemy. So you got to watch out. So who killed the good people in this world? It's not the people on top. It's the people in the towns burning the witches. So you're not gonna go to a town, the people that believe and they worship fire, and you tell them, listen, that's bullshit. Fire represent the higher mind, and the people are just gonna kill you. It happened in the Bible when the disciple of Paul went to talk to the Athenians and said, what are you guys worshiping here? And they tried to kill, and then Paul had to come and try to protect the guy because they wanted to kill the guy. And Paul says, no. Great is the God of the Athens. Because what you understand as God is not the same thing that I understand as God. So when I say God, whatever you understand is up to you. But if you make you anybody feel happy, that's up to you. But that's not what I meant. You get it?
You're making too much sense, Laz.
Oh boy.
Yeah, really. Stop that now.
You cannot have too much of the same thing, but this is your show. I really want to hear what you got to say.
No, I appreciate. I'm really. Look, it's my show, but I do the show for one reason, and it's selfish. It's because I want to interact with other people and try to gather knowledge and talk to people and learn what they know, because other people know things that I don't know. And I genuinely appreciate the way that you're interpreting these things. It makes a lot of sense. And I genuinely appreciate it. So there.
That's what I'm here for, man.
I mean, just because it's my show doesn't mean I'm the one doing all the talking.
I just want to help, man. That's all. I just want to end the wars. That's it. And
yeah, me too.
Religion is the biggest disinformation psychological operation perpetrated on humanity.
So what do you think about people like fundamentalists, like let's, I started the show and I was talking a little bit about the comment discussion I'm having with Chuck P, who is like very fundamentalist. And I've also talked to Henry, Death to Life. He is a Bible literalist, or
Yep.
and like, Jason Boss over at 153, this guy is a fundamentalist, literalist. These are people who believe the stories are 100% true. They think Jesus is the truth. They think that Noah's Ark and then the flood was true. They think all these things happened the way it was written, that the Bible is literally the word of God. What do you think of these people that we have to deal with today?
I think that no one is born a fundamentalist. No one is born a racist. No one is born a religious crazy guy. They are being reprogrammed by a series of or situations or a method that there is behind religion. It's a psychological, just like a computer virus. And once it infects the people, the only one that can pretty much clean the hard drive is the individual. And for that, it has to be intent. It has to be the individual to want it to.
Yep.
So, if the individual consider the virus of religion part of his own life and personality, why would he change his ways if he considered to be that virus part of the psyche operating system? So, no, probably when we start talking about astrotheology, we can touch a little bit more about that, because it's very connected with the genesis of the Bible. So I think we're going to get there eventually, Aaron.
All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I will, real quick, I think it was What Truth Community said in the comment section earlier about influence freedom would be a good addition. If you don't know, we've already had her on, and I tried to get her on last week, which was our 88th show last week. I tried really hard to get her on. She was busy and she couldn't make it, and it was short notice. We've had her on before. She's one of my favorite people to talk to when it comes to astrotheology. And it's because of her that I downloaded the software called Stellarium, which is an absolutely fucking amazing piece of software. It shows you what...
It doesn't work on my computer.
Well, that's because your computer is a dinosaur.
Well, about that, let me tell you what one of my teachers told me when I was a very young and crazy guy. Crazier than now. He says, when you really want to look at something, close your eyes. So, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. You didn't interrupt. I'm gonna leave the chat and I'm gonna come back. So I'm gonna be gone for a couple of seconds. I'm just gonna close out.
Okay.
Because I want to try to get my screen. If my screen share doesn't work, then I can't give you my astrotheology presentation, and that's just going to suck because I've got files within files. I've got tons of shit that I share on astrotheology, and I really would love to share some of it. And if I can't screen share, then it's just worthless.
Well, don't forget the beer and your way back.
All right, I'll be back. You guys talk amongst yourselves, interact with the chat. I'll be back in a few seconds.